Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to this episode of The Authentic Man. Today, I'm going to be talking about, I just feel inspired by some of the conversations I've had with guys, men that I work with, men that I coach, even friends, around how they feel hurt in their relationships or been hurt in their relationships in the past. So I thought I'd get into talking about that basically. Because I think it's a really important topic, because I think I spend a lot of time talking about how men hurt women and the things that men need to change, but actually sometimes men aren't even aware of the things that are happening to them in a relationship that's hurting them, and they think that it's just totally fine and normal and okay. So, I'm just here to shed some light on these things. Maybe as a man, you'll listen to this and this is some of the things that are shown up in your relationship, and you might want to have a conversation with your partner, or maybe these things have happened to you in the past and you're not actually sure whether it's okay. It's just okay. Sometimes we're in a situation where something happens and we're like, is that just how it is? Or is that something that's not okay? We don't feel sure. So I want to go through a number of things. I want to say is a set number, but I think I'm just going to talk and see what comes out. I've got some notes and I'll use those. So one of the first things is, and I see this as a lot of men in relationship, is they are in relationship with women. I'm talking about men in relationship with women. And the women withhold sex. Withhold sex as a weapon. It's like if they're not getting what they want, then it's like we're not having sex. And this is something that really causes a lot of issues in relationship. Because, for many men, sex is the easiest way for them to connect with their partners and feel intimacy. Rightly or wrongly, I'm not really judging there. I'm just saying the sex is one of those kind of primary places to connect intimacy. And often I speak to men, and when their partners are withholding sex or don't want to have sex and aren't really communicating why, it's just that I don't fancy it and things like that. And I'm not saying that the men are completely unresponsible for that situation, but when there's withholding, a man goes into a few directions, and obviously there are probably two of the ones. Obviously, sometimes they go to porn, and then sometimes they go and cheat and be unfaithful, and it's really damaging, and it can also really affect a man's self-esteem if the person you're with is not wanting to have sex with you. It makes it really question who you are, what's going on. And like I said, I've known this to happen in quite a lot of relationships where withholding sex is a standard weapon that's used to get one's way, which is a kind of manipulation. So one of the other things is not really holding space for him. And when I say holding space, it's not really listening or creating a safe container for him to speak about his fears, his worries, his concerns, maybe even past traumas, right? When really what's going on often there is that the woman you're with, or if you're a woman, listens at you potentially, you only want to listen to the emotions you like. You only want to hear the things you like. So when he speaks about maybe, I don't know, unhappiness in a relationship, or his fears or worries or his traumas or his worry about commitment or whatever, instead of holding space for him and it being about listening to him, it becomes all about you. And maybe he's talking and you're like, so what's the narrative in your mind is going, what does this mean about me? What does this mean about me? What is he trying to tell me about me? Instead of just letting him speak freely and listening deeply to him. And this has a really long-term effect of, especially if a man feels he's been attacked emotionally for speaking, this is why men later on don't talk. This is why they shut down, because at some point they've been attacked. So it's like creating that safe space is really important to create a safe for a man to open up and talk freely. And then the second one kind of goes in line with this one, right? Which is kind of using his vulnerability when he's spoken openly and honestly about himself, his life, his fears, his worries, using that vulnerability against him at a later date as an attack. So maybe it could be something, maybe he's divulged that, in the past that he's cheated on partners, or in the past that he's had fear of commitment, and then later coming up in an argument, you kind of going, a woman saying to a man, you did this because, in the past you've done these things, that's why I don't trust you. Or that's, so when it's like someone's been vulnerable with you, then you then use that against them. That makes people shut down. That makes people not trust you. It makes people not feel safe with you. So this is a really important one as well. It's like attacking someone for their past vulnerability, or like weaponizing that vulnerability against them. And I know it can happen in the heat of an argument, but I see how for men, I've seen a lot of men I work with, that's really hurt them. So that's something there as well. And Another thing is making his choices and his decisions and actions always mean something about you, and not be, and I guess I'm really talking to women here, but making his actions and choices mean something about the woman. So say, for instance, a man decides to go and spend the evening with his friends. It becomes, for the woman he's with, oh, you don't want to see me. You don't want to spend time with me. Instead of what it really is that he wants to spend time with his friends, And you see that shift is not even subtle. To me, it's quite huge. It's like he's doing something for him, but you, as a woman, possibly are just thinking about the effect on you and what it means about you and your character, what he means about you. But we do this in little subtle ways. Is even just talking about how we feel sometimes is a man speaking about how he feels. And then suddenly it's like, what does this feeling mean about what I'm doing? Does that mean that he thinks blah, 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 blah? And again, it shuts down. This really causes men to shut down. And that's one of the really obvious ones. Criticizing, being highly critical. I know we will suffer from this, especially if we've had highly critical parents. We internalize that voice of criticism. It's where, say, a man is actually really trying to be a good man and doing great things, or trying to do great things at least. It's like always nitpicking at the thing that didn't quite match up, but ignoring the good stuff. So this is particularly important when, you're in a relationship and the man is like, making effort to be a good man, to show up in whatever ways, but always finding the ways in which he didn't show up instead of elevating the ways that he did. So say, for instance, guys, if you're listening to this might occur as like, I don't know, I always use household chores because I think we all experience that in relationship, where you've tidied the house, right? You've tidied the house and your woman comes home and she's like, oh, you tidied the house? And you're like, yeah, I tidied the house. And then it's like, she's like, but you didn't dust properly. That's exactly it. Right there is really fucked up, because it really causes a man to be like, oh, fine, whatever I do is not good enough. That's the narrative we find. And it's just like, and it gets quite tiresome, and it gets to a point where it's like, well, I give up. I can't be bothered to try. Where instead, as a woman, what you really want to do is call him forward. So it's like, and praise him for what he does do. So, come home and he's tidied up and he's like, oh my God, I'm really happy you tidied up. That's amazing. It's really great. Oh, I feel, and then really say how you feel about that amazing gesture. And obviously you share household chores, but I always use them because I just think it's such an apt one when we're talking about relationship. Emotional manipulation. This is a big one, right? Especially where that you can manipulate your man if you show any sign of upset. Like if you, guys, what this looks like. It's like you're with your woman and she cries. You're talking about something maybe important to you or to the two of you, and it's maybe something she doesn't want to talk about, it's uncomfortable. And then through crying or expressing sadness or something like that, because the man in that situation is so used to being like, oh my God, if she's crying, there's something wrong, I must stop this. It manipulates the situation so that conversation doesn't get had. And this can be in many other ways, emotional manipulation, and sometimes it's just simply making a man feel bad or manipulating situations to leave him to feel like he's the bad guy and he's done something wrong. But there's an emotional manipulation that happens in a relationship, and this is very damaging to the relationship. We think that it's just not just damaging to the man, but it's also very damaging to the relationship, because it creates a lot of mistrust, and it just creates this kind of very toxic feeling inside the relationship. So it's something we really need to look out for, is this kind of emotional manipulation. And I think the couple more I have is around, first of all, is like desire, shaming a man for having desire for other women. Now, this is different from acting upon the desire for other women, because I think that's different. But I think we should really come to this mature place of knowing that we have desire for people. We will be attracted to people. And we should be able to be mature about that and be like, oh yeah, you have desire for, someone on TV or a pop star or whatever, without it suddenly becoming this very jealous, kind of selfish situation where it's like, oh, you fancy this woman on TV, or, things like that, where it becomes quite harmful and toxic in the relationship. It's like, actually, it's very normal for us to desire for people. And it goes both ways, If your partner, if you're a man, listen to this and your woman desires other men, it's very normal. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. I think that's the key thing. We often get into this idea of comparison, Like, oh, if they desire them, then they don't desire me, or if they desire them, then I must be not good enough. And it's this comparing and not kind of recognizing that, you know, they can desire someone else and completely love you as well. So I think it's a really, really important distinction to look at. And I guess the last one is this idea around kind of jealousy around your partner's masturbation habits, or, you know, masturbation habits. I've seen this in quite a few relationships where, you know, guys I've worked with where their partners have been very jealous of them, like wanking or masturbating. So it's like, oh, if they do that, then it's like, you know, oh, does that mean you're not desiring me? You know, that sort of thing. These are something that kind of happens inside a relationship that I don't think is very healthy. It's like, you know, your partner should be given time to self-pleasure if he chooses to, and it's not a loss to the woman in the relationship. So those sorts of things as well can be really hurtful to many relationship. And this was just like a few. I'm not going to give you the solutions to these, I guess. You know, these are the problems. You know, if you're a man in relationship and you've got these problems in your relationship, then, you know, maybe seek some help from somebody. Maybe drop me a DM and, you know, you can talk to me about it there. Or send me an email, hello@theauthenticman.net, or you can hit me up on Instagram if you're listening to this, you know, @theauthenticman_, because all these things can be really harmful to a relationship and cause pain and hurt. So it's worth really like looking at these, because often if you're a man in relationship and these things are happening, there is actually something you can do, you know. And if you're a woman in relationship with a man and these are things you're doing, then, you know, there's definitely things both of you can do as well, right? As a woman, you can do that as well. So yeah, feel free to reach out. If you've enjoyed this, you know, share this with somebody, share this with someone who's in relationship, you know, maybe dealing with some of these things, so they know that it's not just them that's dealing with it, or maybe these are things that you've done before. You know, I'd love to see some wonderful, brave people share this to their stories, because I know sometimes these are touchy topics, but, you know, feel free to do so. And drop down in the comments anything you've learned, or any of the other things that you've experienced in a relationship that really hurt, you know, whether you're a man or you're a woman. Cool, people. Well, ciao for now.